More formally, the set of integers includes whole numbers, their opposites, and zero. How can we use opposites in the meaning of zero to help us describe real-life situations? Kendra had a fun day in town at the movie theater, amusement park, and arcade. Use the number line to describe a path she could have taken that includes distances and locations. How could you describe the distance between the movie theater and the arcade? Well, I see the movie theater is on the far left and the arcade is on the far right. She went a total of 8 units from the movie theater to the arcade simply by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can compare integers by looking at their distance and direction from each other in zero. We will use inequalities to compare integers in real-life situations. Brock is watching a dolphin dive. He records the information in a table. Which dive was the deepest, and what would zero represent in this situation? We're using a vertical number line. If a dolphin dove a distance of 5 feet, he would be under the water at -5. Similarly, if the dolphin dove at 9 feet, we would be at -9. And finally, a dolphin dove at 7 feet would be at -7. -7 is smaller or less than -5. -9 is also less than -7. 0 represents the location where the dolphin enters the water, so 0 is the water level. Take a moment to pause the video and identify if each inequality is true or false. Then we'll come back and talk about it. The first one is true. -9 is smaller than -7, which is smaller than -3. The second one is false. -6 is not smaller than -8. It should be reversed. The third one is also false. -8 is not greater than -4. -8 is less than -4. And the final one is true. -5 is smaller than -2. Circle the scenarios below that are true. Ashley owes Michael $12 and Jerry owes Michael $7. Ashley owes Michael more than Jerry. That is true. Team A lost 7 yards on the football field, which is more than Team B, who lost 12 yards on the football field. This one is false, because Team B lost more than Team 7 because 12 is larger than 7. The temperature on Monday was -12 degrees Celsius, which is less than the temperature on Tuesday, which is -7 degrees Celsius. This is true. -12 is smaller than or less than -7. Denver, Colorado is called the Mile High City because its elevation is 5,280 feet above sea level. Someone tells you that the elevation of Death Valley, California is -282 feet. Is Death Valley located above or below sea level? Explain. Death Valley is located below sea level. We know this because its elevation is negative. Sea level is our base for measuring elevation. Sea level is defined as 0 feet. Because Death Valley is measured at -282 feet, this is below sea level. How many feet higher is Denver than Death Valley? I'm going to use a number line here, almost like an open number line. I've got 0 there, -282 on the left of 0, and 5,280 on the right of 0. To get from -282 to 0, it is a distance of 282 units. Then to get from 0 to 5,280 is 5,280 units. 282 plus 5,280 is 5,562 feet. So therefore, Denver is 5,562 feet higher than Death Valley. What would your elevation be if you were standing near the ocean? Since we are standing near the ocean, our elevation would be close to zero. The absolute values of rational numbers and their opposites are equivalent. The absolute value of a number is determined by its distance away from zero. So when I look at 0 to 0.3, its absolute value is 3/10. The opposite of 3/10 is negative 3/10. Negative 3/10 is also 3/10 away from zero. So the absolute value, which are those goalpost signs looking like, of negative 3/10 is equal to the absolute value of 3/10. Since opposite numbers are equidistant from zero, their absolute values are also equivalent. 45 hundredths is the opposite of negative 45 hundredths. And negative 45 hundredths, the absolute value, is equivalent to the absolute value of 45 hundredths. According to the table of some of the coldest and hottest recorded temperatures on Earth, how many places have the same absolute temperature? Meaning their coldest temperature is the same as another place's hottest temperature. So when I look at the table, I count Russia and Israel have absolute temperatures. Russia and Ethiopia have absolute value temperatures, and those are the only two that I see. So there are two of them. Also, is it true or false that the hottest temperature in the table has a greater absolute value than the coldest temperature? Well, the hottest temperature on the table is 160 degrees. The coldest temperature looks like negative 136 in Antarctica. When I compare the absolute values of negative 136 and 160, the hottest temperature is the greater absolute value. So this is true. Now that we have an understanding of negative numbers, we can extend our coordinate plane to include positive and negative numbers. Horizontal and vertical number lines create the x-axis, which runs horizontal, and the y-axis, which runs vertical, which allows us to plot and locate points. Name the coordinates of the given points. Let's start with A. Starting at the origin, we move to the right 3 units and neither up or down. So the point is 3, 0. Starting at the origin, we move left 5 units and up 6 units, so negative 5, 6. Starting at the origin, we move left 8 units and down 5 units, so negative 8, negative 5. The first quadrant on the top right, which is what we covered in 5th grade as well, is known as Quadrant 1. We then move in a counterclockwise distance for Quadrant 2 on the top left, Quadrant 3 on the bottom left, and Quadrant 4 on the bottom right. We also know that the point at which we start is called the origin. Plot the points with the given coordinates. Point A, 5, negative 2. So we start at the origin, always moving left or right first, 5, and then we go down 2. B, 0, negative 4. So we're not moving left or right from the origin, but we are moving down 4 units. Point C, we start at the origin, move left 7, and we move up 8. Correct the 2 errors on the coordinate plane. Pause the video and we'll see if we can't come together and see if we get the same errors found. I see that the first error is the point in the 4th quadrant. This point should be named 3, negative 4. It appears the student reversed the x and y coordinates. The second error I see is the coordinate in the third quadrant. The point should be -8, -9. Reflect these points across the x-axis and reflect these points across the y-axis. So if I want to reflect point A across the x-axis, it needs to move upwards. And just because I'm moving up, we are not moving left or right. So all that's changing is my y-coordinate becomes the opposite. Similarly with point B, if I move it across the x-axis, it now becomes the point -3, -4. Now moving the y across the y-axis with point C, -9, -9, this becomes +9, -9. Notice I'm just shifting left or right, but I'm not moving up or down. Point D is the same. We will move our point to the left, but not up or down, so our new point becomes -7, +8. Given the coordinates, which points are reflections of one another over the x-axis? Point -7, 9 for point A is in the top left quadrant, so the second quadrant. 7, -9 is down here. These are not reflections over the x-axis. This is actually a reflection over the origin. Point B is 7, 9. So this would be a reflection over the y-axis. And these two could be a reflection over the x-axis. Further, the point -7, -9, point A and C could also be reflections over the x-axis. So A and D are points over the x-axis. Absolute value is used to find the distance between points in the plane that differ by one coordinate. Find the length of the given statements. So here I have the points. A is -5, or -3, 5, and B is -3, -6. Notice that our x values are the exact same. So it takes 5 units to get from A to the x-axis, and then from the x-axis to B is 6 units. So the absolute value of 5 plus the absolute value of -6 is 5 plus 6, which is 11 units. C and D. This time our x values are different and our y values are the same. So the absolute value of -6, minus the absolute value of -4 is 6 minus 4, which is 2. We also could count that there are 2 units difference. Absolute value is used to find the difference between the points. Find the length of the given segments. Let's start with A. A is -7, 7, 13, 7. So notice our y values are the same. So we're having a horizontal change. -7 plus 13, the absolute values is 7 plus 13, so a distance of 20. The point C to point D. Notice their x values are the same. It's the y values that change. And notice we're moving down, so we'll subtract here. The absolute value of -3 minus the absolute value of -10. So 3 minus 10 is -7, but I have a comment here that we don't count distance in negative numbers, so it has to be 7. Finally, we are moving left and right, so our x values change. -5 absolute value plus the absolute value of 1 is 5 plus 1, which equals 6. Your homework. Print the homework file included in the practice problems. Complete the problems outlined within the pages. Scan and upload your documents back into the practice problems Dropbox.